As the busy summer travel season gets closer, the FAA is opening up what it calls highways in the sky to speed up air travel. But the news comes amid growing concerns over whether the nation's aviation system can keep pace with the demand from vacationers. Kris Van Cleave is at very busy LAX, though it's not busy right now. This is like the only time I've not seen LAX busy. I can't hear you, Kris. There we go. Kris,
I said it's very busy here.
Yeah, right.
Hey, good morning. I said it's very early here, so it will get busier, I promise. Trust me.
All right, all right. So what is this business of highways in the skies? Sounds lovely, but what is it?
Sure. So the FAA picked about 170 routes that weren't particularly direct. They were old airplane routing based on ground radar, except planes flying above 18,000 feet use GPS now, like what we have on our phones. So they basically straightened out those routes along the East Coast. They think it will save about 6,000 minutes of air travel a year. Of course, that means it shaves a little bit of time off of flights. It means airlines burn less fuel. That's better for the environment, better for the airline's bottom line, and hopefully better for flyers because they have more direct routing from point A to point B.
Okay, so that's good. But here's some of the stuff that I don't think the FAA can help. There are disputes out there. American Airlines pilots have to allow their labor union to call for strike action. There are other pilots that have had issues recently with whether, determining whether or not to strike. What's the latest on the dispute with American Airlines?
Sure. So American Airlines pilots had what's called a strike authorization vote. They overwhelmingly voted yes. That does not mean a strike is imminent. In fact, I think a strike is very unlikely. This is sort of saber rattling to get the attention. It's to send a message to the executives in Dallas that the pilots are unhappy with the pace of contract negotiations. Think back to last fall. Delta pilots did something very similar and then got a pretty lucrative new contract. So negotiations are ongoing. American Airlines says they think they are close to the finish line to get that done. But some of the things the pilots are complaining about are quality of life things, scheduling. They continue to say they think that the airline is scheduling too many flights, and that could be a real problem this summer. One of the things we saw last year, staffing issues aside, is there's not the same level of resiliency in the system that we were used to pre-pandemic. So when bad weather happens, which it does during the summer, it can be a lot more disruptive and can take longer for the airlines to recover. Airlines have made a big hiring push over the last 12 months. They say they've added buffers into the system. We'll see if that happens. The other thing here is that FAA staffing is not necessarily where the airlines think it should be. In fact, they've had to reduce their number of flights in and out of New York this summer because there is not sufficient FAA staffing at some of the air traffic control centers. So that's one thing we're going to be watching very closely here, because the biggest threat to the summer travel season is always the weather, and that's the one thing no one can control.
We just showed some video of passengers lining up. Myself and your producer for the segment, Charlie, had a very robust conversation about why is it that we become so frustrated and angry when we're traveling. And we concluded that just the process of getting to the plane can kind of make your blood boil. And we have seen these violent outbursts on planes. I don't know why it's happening. We've had many conversations about what the possible reasons are. My question to you is, what's being done to tackle this issue?
So we have seen the unruly passenger issue really blow up during the pandemic. It has come down some from, sort of an astronomical high of nearly 6,000 incidents in 2021 into 2022, where you had the mask mandate still in place. But they're still occurring more frequently than they did pre-pandemic. The FAA has significantly increased the fines they issue, levying up to nearly $100,000 an incident. You can face criminal charges, both state and felony charges, and you can end up in federal court, too, if it's significant enough the FBI takes it over. So you can face some real serious criminal charges. So there has been a real effort to tamp these down, but they do continue to happen. We know that flyers are stressed. You look at surveys of flyers, 76% say that they are worried about their flights being disrupted or not getting where they're planning to go. So there is some underlying stress on flyers, but we continue to see some of these violent incidents that really continue to plague the travel system. But those numbers are creeping down.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have consequences for sure, but I don't know if the people in those videos are even thinking about the possible consequences when they're, behaving that way on board a plane. Kris, thank you very much.
Sure thing.